Based on everything we've heard, seen, and read through the entirety of spring practice, this Wisconsin Badgers football team is going to be better this season.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Harings. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for building this community and being part of this as we talk about the Badgers and just make it more fun to be a Badgers fan. That's what this is all about. Today's episode brought to you by Amazon. Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into an Xbox. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Today's episode, we're talking spring positional grouping, stock up or stock down on each one. The biggest worry remaining, and are we better? And I'm going to tell you right now, I let off with it. Yes, we are better. I went through every position. I got a stock up at 6 spots. And by the way, we're going stock up from where I was at the beginning of spring practice. I think I'm stock up at 6 positions. I think I'm stock even at 2, although I might flip-flop that as we go through this actually. So it might be 5 and 3, and I'm stock down at 1, but it's a big one. But overall, I feel better about the majority positions after everything we've seen in spring, and I think this football team is going to be better this season. It is worth noting, spring practice, it's easy to get optimistic, and I am fully aware of that and not naive to that, but I do think legitimately this team is better at the most positions from last year, and also I feel better about most of these positions based on what we've seen through spring practice. Let's get into it. We're going to go position by position. I'm going to tell you stock up, stock way up, stock meh, stock down, or stock way down. Let's start at quarterback. Stock way up. I think it's stock way up. I really do. Some of that is a reflection of where this program was last year at the quarterback spot. It was really bad, right? We all know this. You had TVD, you got hurt. Braden Locke wasn't very good. They never even really got to the point of considering putting Mabry Mettoyer in there. That can tell you kind of where they thought Mettoyer was at, despite needing desperately to win a game to get into bowl contention. They never said, maybe we should try this tall, athletic guy. Do you remember Gary Anderson? Listen, you say whatever you want about Gary Anderson. He was okay throwing a tall, athletic guy who couldn't really throw that well into the mix just to give you something on the run game with Tanner McAvoy. They never even got to that point with Mabry Mettoyer. That quarterback position was a disaster last year. It was not all on Braden Locke. It had something to do with Coach Longo, and there were some drops from receivers. But that was a really bad quarterback room, 16th in the Big Ten in passer rating, not enough big plays. They were 120th in the country, 120th in the country in long passing plays, long explosive completions of 20 plus or more yards. It was a really bad system, a really bad room. And now I think Billy Edwards Jr. is going to be good. He's going to be solid. I've said this again and again and again, and it's just my opinion. It doesn't make it the right one. I think he's going to come in and give you solid quarterback play. When you go from an F, which essentially was what that room was last year, I don't know how else you can grade that. When you go to really bad quarterback play to a C, to a C+, listen, I lived on C's and C pluses in high school. That's how I got through high school, barely got through high school. I had several D's mixed in there. I had a couple F's. If you go from a D minus and F to a C plus, that's a big deal. Just getting adequate at the quarterback spot. Adequate isn't anything you long-term strive for, but going from where you were last year to where you are this year, adequate is a big deal. And then I loved what we saw from Daniel O'Neal in spring. He's, I think, a little better version of what Braden Locke gave you. Similar size. I think kind of a similar arm strength. I don't think Braden Locke's biggest issue was his arm strength. I thought his arm strength was fine to make a lot of the throws you need to at the college level. It was his inability to kind of read things, but also his inability to move, to create passing lanes, some decision-making. Daniel O'Neal can at least give you the ability to move, to create something with his legs, to be a little dynamic, to create a little bit of unease in the defense. And that's such a valuable component to playing quarterback. Can you create something when it's not there? Can you extend the play when it breaks down? Can you get 3 yards on a play that should be broken? It's a huge difference in football. Going from 1st and 15 or 2nd and 15 because you get sacked, or it's 2nd and 7 because you just were able to get out of the pocket and get a couple yards. That keeps the drive alive. Daniel O'Neal can do that. Braden Locke couldn't. So I think you're better at the 1. I think you're better at the 2. And then I really think Carter Smith is a guy who, if you needed, You could go in there and give you something at least on the legs in emergency situations. I think you're better at every spot. And they've augmented depth beyond that. So I think quarterback stock is way up. Call me a homer. It is what it is. We'll see. Time will tell. The receipts are all right here. These videos don't go anywhere. You can go back and find my Gus Yalden and how excited I was that he committed video. These videos don't go anywhere. The receipts are there, but I think this quarterback room is way better. I think it's going to give the Badgers something they did not have last year, and I think there's better depth there as well. Running back stock, again, going from where I was at the beginning of spring to now, I'm stock up. I don't think it's way up. Quarterback, I was way up. I think I'm stock up because I expected Dilin Jones to look good, but he's looked really good. And Darion Dupree, I think I know who he is. He got dinged up. It's not major. That doesn't scare me. I'm not too worried about it. He is all summer. And then I was really excited to see Cade Yacamelli featured really in that top group, somebody who I think deserves to be in that top group, but it's nice to see him there. And because of that, I'm going stock up from where I was at the beginning of spring, not drastically. I think this room is definitely better than it was last year, just because these young players are a little more advanced or a little older. And then the key to me was coming into this spring, I want to see them incorporate Cade Yacamelli. I want to see them entrust a bigger role into a guy that averaged 8.3 yards per carry last year. I want to see them trust a guy that did the most with the least last year. And it looks like they're doing that. It looks like they're willing to do that. And if Cade Yacamelli, one of the things I said all along, if he is still on this roster at the end of the spring transfer portal, if he stays through spring, I think that tells you he believes there's a role here for him, because otherwise, what else would, there's no reason for him to stick around otherwise, because he would have been proven that he can't really get on the field, because the performance last year dictated more reps. He didn't get them. I think him staying here tells you that Coach Grimes, Coach Spalding, they're invested in this. He's going to be a big part of this offense. So I'm stock up. I think it's a good group. And let's move on. Receivers. This one was tricky for me. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning. I was stock up, but I was like, man, should I flip-flop it? I'm going to go stock up. But I think I'm questioning if I should go stock up or stock even. I'm going to stick at stock up. Here's where I'm a little nervous. You lose Will Pauling, and I know Will Pauling did not have the greatest year last year. He's still a guy that a Notre Dame came after. Notre Dame could get a lot of guys. They saw in Will Pauling what we saw last year in Will Pauling, a really good slot receiver, tough, able to get open, quick. Again, the hands weren't great last year. He dropped more passes than he should have. I don't fully know why. I don't really know what happened there. But I think you can replace a lot of what he did with Tretch. I think Tretch can come in and give you not the preciseness of Will Pauling. Will Pauling was a pretty precise route runner. I think Tretch is not going to necessarily be that. He's got to refine that part of his game. But I think Tretch can give you more after the catch. He can be a little more explosive. He's got a little bit more size. So I think you're okay there. I'm going stock up, though, based on what we've seen from Jaden Ballard. I think Ballard coming in, we got to see it. This is only spring. But I think him coming in and doing what he's done in spring makes me feel pretty darn good. And that's not somebody we counted on. That's somebody that we said, this is a lottery ticket. When Jaden Ballard committed, it was a lottery ticket. He hasn't done anything at Ohio State, but there's payoff, right? There's potential there. There's massive upside there. This is a gold mine that we just started tapping. Let's see what's in there. And in spring, you couldn't have asked for anything better. It's one of the things I talk about a lot on this show, because it's something that stood out to me at a basketball coaching clinic I went to, and I think is really good advice. Someone told me, a question was asked about how do you evaluate early results, be it early in a game, early in a season, early in practice. And I forget who the coach delivering this was, but he said, always react. Don't not react because it's a small sample size, but just don't overreact. So I'm not going to not react to Jaden Ballard lighting spring on fire. Let's not overreact, but I think he cemented himself as a starting guy, and a guy who, man, if this continues, you could have a lot of fun this year with Vinny and Jaden Ballard on opposite sides of the field. So I'm going to go stock up on this one, even with the loss of Pauling, even with the loss of Hamper. I'm going stock up. Okay, we are going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and talk about the other spot where you lost a portal guy coming in. Where am I at on tight ends? Plus the biggest concern that I have right now coming up next, Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Game Time. What's better? What is better than going with your compadres, your amigos, your bros, your gals, your sisters, your brothers, whatever it is, your family, the Badgers community. What is better than getting together in the Kohl Center, in Camp Randall, wherever it is on campus, cheering for the Badgers with your people? That's what Game Time is here to help facilitate. Let's go do more stuff in 2025. Let's get to more places. Let's get to those concerts, those comedy shows, monster truck rallies, baseball games, whatever it is. Game Time is here to get you to the events that will define your life. So at the end of it, you're not looking back and saying, I wish I would have done more stuff. No, use Game Time. Do more stuff. Do it now. Build community. Get together. Watch games together. That's all available over on Game Time. They're going to help you get tickets cheaper, faster, and easier. Curation makes it easy to find the best value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, super deals, last-minute flash sales, fast interface, best prices, greatest website that you can get to for all the pictures of the seats before you sit down. Game Time is the place to go. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's go do more stuff, y'all. Let's do it together. All right. Let's go back. Let's talk tight ends. I'm going stock down. This is another one. I really flip-flopped on this because, again, consider the criteria that I'm judging this off of. I'm judging it based on where we were at the beginning of spring. And at the beginning of spring, I was counting on Tanner Koziol. At the beginning of the spring, I thought they had a difference maker at that spot that really elevated the ceiling from a reception standpoint, from a mismatch standpoint, from a red zone standpoint. And now they don't have that. Now, Tanner Koziol all existed in theory. It was all in potential. It was all in upside. It wasn't in actual performance on the field or what he's actually performed. And I think the team is better off without him because, quite frankly, he sounds too soft to make an impact. But let's make no mistake about why the Badgers went out and got a Tanner Koziol. They went out and got a Tanner Koziol because the ceiling at the tight end spot without a guy like Tanner isn't as high. So that's why I'm selling on this. Like it was again, we talk lottery tickets. This was something you brought in to raise the ceiling, and now he's gone. And I don't know how you can say stock is higher after that happens. Now, they did go out and get a Lance Mason. They have replaced someone in the portal. By the way, the portal is like that Beyonce song. It's like, I can have another one of you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. It's like the portal, right? They got Lance Mason coming in. And it's like, yeah, we'll have another one here in a minute. No worries. Let's go. But he's not a Koziol. Right? What he did at the D3 level is not equivalent to what Tanner Koziol did at the D1 level. Was Lance Mason at the FCS level? I forget exactly, but he has to step up a level. I do think he can be a good receptions guy, and I do really like what we've heard about Tucker Ashcraft in practice. Tucker Ashcraft seems like he's taking a jump. I would agree with that. But he's still not going to be that weapon that Tanner Koziol potentially could have been, which is why I have to go stock down here. Now, in the future, I'm looking at this spot, and I kind of think Emmett Bork might not be talked about enough. The freshman this year, he's pretty massive, pretty good hands. You have Grant Steck. You still have Tucker Ashcraft. You have Nazee Davis coming in. I really think there's a lot of fun pieces here going forward. I feel pretty good about this spot in 2-3 years. Again, in college football now, you got to hold on to everybody. That's not always the easiest thing. So going forward, I feel pretty good, though. But this year, I'm going to go stock down based on you lose one of your biggest portal additions. And we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest at times where we can't celebrate and really discuss the impact of a guy like Koziol coming in. And then when he leaves, just shrug your shoulders and say, nah, not a big deal. No, it was because that's a lot of resources you invested into that. And you invested in this position for a reason. And that reason was you wanted to raise the ceiling. That ceiling raiser is gone. So I'm going stock down on tight ends. But I do like what we've heard about Tucker Ashcraft. I do think you're going to be solid at tight ends. But I think with Tanner Koziol, you could have been beyond solid. And that's where I'm judging this by. Okay, let's go. My biggest concern, I teased it. It's offensive line. I went stock way up on quarterback. You got to go stock way down on offensive line. Again, judging from where we were at the beginning of spring to now, you just can't lose a Kevin Heywood and have any other answer here. Despite the fact that I think what they showed at the spring game was pretty good. I like the what we've seen from Brunner. I think Renfro's going to be better this year. I think Kerry Godonko is a nice surprise kind of stepping into this role that a lot of fans weren't expecting. I like what we've seen from a lot of the young guys. Nolan Davenport stepping into that 2-deep, showing that 6'6" athletic frame with movement skills like a dancer. Yes, please, let's get more of that. Emerson Mandel drawing the praise of A.J. Blazik in the way he's moving and firing off the ball, playing tackle and guard. There's high upside there. We all know this. Despite all of that, you lost to Kevin Heywood. Everything else is periphery when you're talking about losing a left tackle of his potential caliber. And I don't want to, it's fair that we don't want to crown him too early, but when you talk to people in the room, you see the way he moved, you saw how he was training early in spring. This guy was going to be a rock solid left tackle for us in the Big Ten this year. And there's just not a replacement that's out there right now. Obviously, you go and you get a Davis Heinzman from Central Michigan. I think that's a depth piece. I don't think that's a guy you're plugging into left tackle to start. So it's stock way down. And it's my biggest concern because you look at the fronts that Wisconsin's going to have to face this year. You're going to have to go down into Bryant Denny and play Alabama. You've got Iowa coming into Camp Randall. You got Ohio State. You're going to go over to Oregon to play them on the road. Michigan, Illinois. It's going to be a battle in the trenches, and you just lost one of your dudes up front. So I hate it. It stinks. Injuries happen. It's part of football. I still feel gutted for him. He's going to be back, but this year, man, and especially going from the beginning of spring to right now, you got to say stock way down because you just don't have a lot of depth there, and that's one of your core pieces. Defensive line, this is stock up. In fact, I think this is stock way up, quite frankly. Again, going from where I was at in the beginning of spring to now, it just looks a lot better. It looks a lot deeper. I think Perkins has definitely garnered a ton of praise. That's not a guy we necessarily expected to come in and just blow up. And it sounds like he's really taken that bull by the horns. You have, Dilin Johnson getting better, Corey Walker, Garner. There's just a lot of pieces here. And there's still more coming. That's a good freshman group that's coming in. Jalen Williams is still coming in. I don't think he's going to play a big role just because I think there's too many bodies there. But I definitely feel way better about this defensive line than I did pre-spring. So I'm going to go stock up here. I think outside of a few spots, I can't wait to see how this looks in fall as they get another summer to figure out what the rotations are going to look like. In fall, when we get to go down to Platteville, when we get to see them practice, defensive line, that front seven, the rotations, the formations, I think is going to be one of the absolute most intriguing things we're going to keep our eyes on, and I cannot wait to do that. Let's go linebacker. Again, from spring to now, I'm stock even. This is kind of what I expected. I actually expected, based on some conversations I had off season, I expected Tackett to look better, and he has. I expected Christian Allegro to look like a dude because he's the Lebowski, man. He's the dude, and he has looked like the dude. So you got the dude out there. You got Tackett looking back like a healthy version of himself. I expected that. I think the inside linebackers are going to be a strength. I kept waiting to hear a little bit more from the outside spots, and I don't know if we fully got there. Daryl Peterson, Cheeks, some flashes from Nicholas Clayton for sure. I think if you look at Clayton, maybe you say stock up because of what he showed. But I think this was all kind of what I expected. It kind of fits into what I thought spring would look like for these players. Now, maybe Cooper Catalano is a guy you look at and say, that's more than we thought. You got a bump there. He looks good. So maybe because of that, I'm going stock up, actually. I'm talking myself into stock up on this because I'm like, man, Fearby I liked him too. I like Turner in flashes. Cooper Catalano flashed. Nicholas Clayton flashed late. I feel like I had this stock even, and now mid-show, I am reserving the right to change my mind. I'm going to stock up on this, not way up, because I think the inside linebackers are the strength of this team. I think that showed in spring, but that's also what I expected. Let's go stock up. I think we're going stock up on linebacker. Let me know what y'all think on this too. We're going to take a quick break there, come back and talk about the secondary, and then kind of big picture, are we better? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. We're going to talk to you about our friends of the show over at FanDuel. I've talked about FanDuel quite a bit, and it's because they're great. They're a longtime sponsor of the show, the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and they are where I'm going to go again this year to place my over on the Badgers because it's hitting. FanDuel over under 5.5 wins for the Badgers. I think you're going to hit this year because of everything we're talking about, because of the upgrades on offense, because of the quarterback play. I'm going to do all of that over on FanDuel. It is quick. It's fast. It's easy. It's secure. The payments come quick when you win, which unlike some other sites where it's pulling teeth to get your money when you actually win, FanDuel is really simple, fast, painless, great user interface, customer support, every type of betting you want, parlays, futures, teasers, live in-game betting, it's all there. And right now, great offer, $5 bet for new customers. If you win your first $5 bet, then you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Let's jump back into this. Let's talk secondary, cornerback room. I'm going to stock up. From where we were at the beginning of spring to now, I think you've seen further growth from those two starters. Rico and Nizier have looked good. I think you've seen jumps from some of the younger guys. Emilio Agard has definitely flashed this year. I just had him on the show the other day. I'm really excited to see what he can do this year in the 2 deep. But Latimer, right? The transfer coming in, he's looked really good. And he's somebody that's impressed in that slot position. I think that's probably his role to lose now. And that means he's a starter. That means you picked up, because the slot plays starter minutes, essentially, in today's era of college football. Sounds like he's gritty. Sounds like he's tough. Sounds like he's going to help in run defense. That sounds like a pretty good pickup. So I think you're slotting him in at starter. You also really, really like some of the young guys. Like a Kairos Gaines has jumped up. And so you start to pair some jumps from the young guys. You like what you're seeing from Emilio Agard. You have those two veterans. Okay. Again, this was a spot we had a lot of questions about. Where's the depth going to be? I think you're getting it answered. I think you see multiple players in that 2 deep that you're starting to feel okay with. And we all know this as Badger fans. You can do way worse at Wisconsin than a secondary or a cornerback room that's going to be headlined by Rico Hallman and Nizier Fortgreen. That's pretty good. 2 really veteran, heady guys, and then some talented underclassmen below them. I'm going to go stock up on the cornerback room. Safeties, stock even. I think it's about what I thought. I think you've seen some flashes from the young players in Emmerich and Dean. Solid play from Zachman. Solid play from Austin Brown. The 2 transfer guys, you getting their feet wet a little bit, but this is about what I expected at safety. It's going to be a heady group. I think it's going to be a solid group, maybe not an explosive playmaking group. There were some big plays given up this year. I know that's something that the defense is going to have to continue to work on. How much of that is this offense giving them some issues, Jaden Ballard having speed, Vinny Anthony having speed, probably some of that. But we're going to play a lot of teams this year with speed, so that's definitely something you want to kind of put a pin in and think about. Is this defense going to have an issue giving up some of those deep balls, or are they just working through rotations, trying to figure some stuff out? Safeties, I'm going to go even. All right, so where does that leave us? I have stock up at 7 positions, stock even at 1 position, stock down at 1 position. I think we're better. I think we are a legitimately better team. I think the culture is going to be stronger. The coaching staff feels a little more coherent, especially on the offensive side. The one, though, that we're not better at is the one that can really derail a lot of stuff, and that's offensive line. That can derail so many things. If that offensive line, and it should be fine, right? Like, the one thing I've said multiple times, the silver lining in the Heywood injury is when it happened. So it happened early enough where this staff has, and this is a good staff, and AJ Blazek knows what he's doing. They have all the summer and all the fall to figure out how they're going to patch this thing. And it could be one of the younger guys having to step up, and maybe one of those early enrollees having to step up. It could be Emerson Mandel. It could be Brunner kicking over to left tackle, and then you put Emerson Mandel at guard. And then your backup, you have Leighton Nelson, and you have Heinsman. You have a couple of these guys as your swing guard and your swing tackle. Maybe that's it. And you have Cody, Ryan Corey as the backup center, and that's your 2 deep. I could see something like that, and that could be okay. Renfro's a veteran. Ballman's a veteran. Brunner's been here long enough. Kadonko's a veteran. That could be a totally fine offensive line if they can stay relatively healthy from this point out. That's the thing that could derail the season, though. Let's be real. Offensive line injuries can happen in groups, and you lose another guy or two, knock on wood. That's the type of thing, because this team doesn't have the depth to replace multiple starters on the offensive line. We're kind of struggling figuring out how they're going to place one right now, because that's partially because of the position where he's at. But that's the key to the season, developing that young offensive line depth and then trying to stay healthy. And there's nothing you can do. It's football. But if they can stay healthy there, they should be fine. You can put a tight end on the left tackle side, right? You can put a tight end over there. You can chip with a running back. You can game plan around it to some degree as long as the other pieces are solid. I think Riley Malman's going to be solid. I think Brunner's going to be solid. I do think the more I've looked at this offensive line, the answer may be kicking Brunner out to left tackle. And then it's just a more important spot than guard, in my opinion. Left tackle, protecting the quarterback. You have a little more help on the inside of guard. I might feel better with a guy like Emerson Mandel taking over that spot. And then you have Brunner, who's a little more physically talented, probably in space on that left tackle side. That's not a great solution either, because then you're disrupting the continuity that Brunner's built on the inside. I think that's probably his better position long-term, but I just don't, we're at the spot now where we don't have the answers, and we're going to be kind of waiting to see what those answers are. But I think we're better. Again, offensive line is the potential bugaboo here, but I think we're better. I think we're potentially way better at certain spots, and I'm excited to see how this is going to roll. Thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate all of y'all. A bunch of content coming up this week, several different guests on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk later.